Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Friday Nights on the Bayou podcast. Joined here as always with my co-host Jace of Gridiron Football. We welcome in Joel Rodgers of 318 Sports. A lot of times we see what goes on like in front of the camera. Now you get to see him when what he looks like behind the camera. So Joel, how's it going, my man?
Man, it's going pretty good up here in North Louisiana tonight. How are you guys doing? I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Is it hot up there?
No, it's not too bad. Let's see what we got here. It's 85.
It's not bad.
Nope.
Honestly, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I wish, going to LSU practices and being down there in Baton Rouge, we'll take 85. It's been 3 digits in the last couple of days. So 85, we definitely would have taken that.
Man, I think schools up here, they have the new turf now. So everywhere I go, man, it's so hot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it gets hot quickly on that turf.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the last time I went to LSU practice was on Saturday, and they actually had a cooler breeze compared to like some of the other practices. But other practices were just miserable and it's hot and it was humid, but not nearly as bad as it was last year, where like you were just being cooked in the sun under 100-degree weather. Like even in because I remember going to Shreveport when I was with the Louisiana Football Magazine. We were covering Calvary, and it was like 95 degrees on the field, and that was around the time like schools around the state were like practicing like 7:00 a.m. just to like escape the sun. It was hot. I just remember how hot it was. Luckily, it's not nearly as hot as it was last year, so we can all practice, or go to stuff, without worrying about the heat. But even though it's still hot, because of course it's summertime. So Joel, what's going on up there in Shreveport in terms of the high school football? What's the vibe over there?
Oh man, a lot of exciting things happening here. We have several state contenders, man. I was at Calvary just a couple of days ago, man. Those boys are loaded up there. Evangel, we have Peyton Houston, like sophomore sensation, got his football card over in the room over there. He's gonna be the real deal. And over at Airline, Ben Taylor and his boys at Airline, then North DeSoto, Luke Delafield and the guys. There's a few teams here looking to make some deep runs, looking to get down to New Orleans this year.
Yeah, you mentioned Joel. You mentioned the quarterbacks, and we just had a conversation before we really started. But I mean, just looking at this group of quarterbacks, you just mentioned and just riled up all of them. Is this as good of an area that you've seen as far as quarterback talent in just one class? I mean, just in 1 year, just a collection of great quarterbacks up in that area.
I'd say so. Yeah, because we have those guys. We have a couple more guys on the way. We have some good guys. Malachi Zingler over at Benton. He's going to be a sophomore, 6'3". We have some big time quarterbacks. Yeah, I would say more so than in the past. We've had some big guys come out of here, but not as many as we have right now. We're calling it Quarterback City.
Yeah.
Yo, definitely. When was the last time where the Shreveport Bossier area was like this?
Oh shoot! If it's ever been like this, I mean, like Ben Taylor led the state, and then Abram Wardell at Calvary, like he's number 2. Then last year it was like Peyton Fulgham over at Evangel, but this year it's gonna be Peyton Houston. Peyton Houston, man, I'm already telling people he's the best quarterback in the state. He is incredible. The coaches around the area, they say what makes him so bad is how he can just he understands passing windows. He doesn't really make mistakes out on the field. And in 7-on-7, he's been tearing up people all summer, but the kid has wheels too. So once the season starts, he's going to be able to take off if it's not open. So yeah. And then Luke Delafield down at North DeSoto, Dennis Dunn, head coach at North DeSoto, right after the state title game that they were in when he was a true freshman, he said on the stage, he said, Luke, he is a future NFL quarterback. I'm like, wow, because he's coached a few NFL quarterbacks in his day.
Mm-hmm.
Like Brock Berlin and Josh Booty.
Oh yeah, definitely all the Booties. I mean, it's a long list of quarterbacks that he's mentored and gone to do great things. But the first school I want to talk about, speaking of great quarterbacks, this school has a great quarterback, and that's Calvary Baptist. This is a team I've always been high on. I told Jace before the season started that Calvary was going to win the state championship. And I'm glad I was right, even though it didn't look great at first. Of course, Charles Catholic, was a great team, great program. They're out early. They had a good early lead, but then Calvary's offense just kept rolling and rolling. Abram Wardell is one of the best quarterbacks in the state, and he led the game-winning drive. They ended up winning the state championship. So thank you, Abram Wardell, for proving me correct. If you're watching this, but my first question is, as they're the defending state champions in Select Division III, what is your outlook on Calvary's upcoming season, especially with a returning starter at quarterback with Abram?
It's incredible. Like his completion percentage, nearly 80% last year, and they got better in the offseason, adding Devin Harper, LSU commit, transferred from Captain Shreve. They get Caleb Tucker, the best player on Huntington's team, over at Calvary now, to go along with that. Colby Thomas at receiver. He ran track. I forget what place he came in, but he's one of the fastest guys in the area. And then, of course, James Simon, Texas commit. That dude is the real deal. They really didn't unleash him last year until the playoffs because they really didn't need him until the playoffs.
Right.
Abram Wardell, 45 touchdowns and 2 interceptions last year. He threw an interception the first game of the year, and then he threw another interception in the state championship game off the tip ball. So Abram, he is the real deal. Then the defense, they're solid all the way around. Braylon Hugon, he is a cornerback. He's going to be a sophomore. He was a freshman All-American last year. And he's going to be a sophomore starting at corner. And on the other side, they have another freshman coming up. They said this guy's going to be better than him. So they are just blessed with talent all the way around. Calvary, they're going to do it again. They're going to run the table again. Oh, they also have they have Moss. They have Julian Moss, recently committed to Air Force. So Calvary, I think best offense in the state. I mean, too many weapons. Like, I know I'm a little biased up here in North Louisiana.
Yeah.
Calvary, they are loaded, man.
Yeah, before you get your question, I just kind of building off of what you said about the cornerbacks. I know I was talking to Coach Guin at the UL Lafayette 7-7 tournament they had down there, and he said one of the concerns was their defense's backfield, just given how young they are. Is that something that may concern you down the road?
Possibly. I feel something good that they have going for them. Like, they are young, but they get to practice against those guys all during the off season, all during the season. They are young, but they have some good leadership at linebacker. Cole Miller, his dad is the defensive coordinator, former linebacker at Evangel. Mark Miller, used to call him Killer Miller back in high school. Well, his son, Cole Killer Miller, linebacker, wears number 2. He's put on a lot of weight in the offseason, and he's fast. He's big, fast. He likes to hit. And so Calvary, they're going to be real good in that box on that line and the linebackers. But, yeah, I guess if they – not a weakness, but maybe their weaker part would be that defensive secondary, like Coach Guin said.
Well, Joel, I know me and Grant were talking about this, having a discussion. We're trying to preview the upcoming season. And at times last year, I mean, Calvary Baptist looked like that they were the most dominant team in the state, last year. And you go back and look at this year, and looking at the additions you just mentioned, I'm like, and Caleb Tucker, and obviously the LSU commit, Devin Harper. Now, just looking at what they returned, is it scary to think, in your opinion, that this team is actually better this upcoming season than they were last year, as dominant as they were last year?
I can't imagine James Simon running behind Devin Harper. It's going to be unstoppable all year long. And then you have the quarterback that's completing 80% of his passes, only throwing 2 interceptions on the whole year, 45 touchdowns. And then having one of the fastest guys in the state on one side, and then adding Caleb Tucker on the other side. I would say their offense is definitely better than last year. And that'd be a good matchup. Calvary versus last year versus this year. This year, I think they would take it. I could see them running the whole table again, going back-to-back undefeated state champions.
And before I go back to Grant,
and
yeah.
About that Catholic game, I heard the other day that fullback on that 4th and 1 in the state championship game, he went to the wrong side. And so I watched it the other day. Yeah, it was a 4th and 1, incredible stop by Calvary, but there was a mistake. St. Charles Catholic quarterback turned to hand to the fullback. He wasn't there. So then the quarterback tried to keep it and go, and and he got stopped. And they just needed that really 1 foot for the state title game.
And I think me and
no.
Grant are still arguing about that call. I mean, I think Grant said that the St. Charles Catholic needed to punt the ball in that situation. I said, hey, you need to pick up a yard. You know, if you think that you're that good in a situation, try to pick up the yard, and you win a state championship. You run out the clock and make sure Calvary doesn't touch the ball. But you know, we'll go back and forth. I know we did that last year, but that was an incredible game, and yeah, it is scary to think. I mean, my last question about Calvary, Joel, before I go back to Grant, is do you think? I mean, we've seen a lot of these rankings, and it blows my mind that you know these national rankings they leave Calvary off the list after seeing what they did last year. I mean, it blows my mind. And your rankings, I mean, I know that you're on 318, but do you firmly believe, just from regardless of classification, that Calvary's the best team heading into the season?
Yes, they're incredible. The offense is that, like I said, I feel like it's the best in the state. You couldn't get a better offense in the state. I mean, you have James Simon. I know y'all got that guy Barry down there. Like a lot of people talk about how good he is, and I know he's special. But man, James Simon. He is a load. And Devin Harper, he is such a mauler. And again, and also having all these other weapons. You know, they don't have to go to James Simon. They didn't really use him like they could have all last year. They just waited until the playoffs, and they unleashed him. He had like 750 yards in the playoffs last year. He had 350 in one game.
Oh yeah,
unbelievable.
Oh yeah, unbelievable player. Speaking of what Jace said about the St. Charles Catholic, I think both the reasons were pretty valid due to the fact that Calvary had no timeouts. So if you got it on the 4th down play, the game's over. But if you punted the ball away, Calvary also didn't have any timeouts. And I think they were punting pretty good that night. I think if say Calvary got the ball at the 15-20 yard line, there would have been 40 to 45 seconds left on the clock. So that means they would have to catch the pass, but then also make sure they went out of bounds. Like it was just, I mean, I think it would have been more of a hectic situation than Calvary. You not making the first down and then having Calvary start on your like 45 yard line. You know, so it's just. I thought that was. I think both were pretty valid, but I saw St. Charles Catholic the week before and what they did to that U High offense. Like I just trust your defense. They're the reason why they got you there. That was my thing. Me and Jace argued about that for like the next 4 weeks.
And the hustle on that St. Charles Catholic team. We don't have teams like that up here. Like those boys hustle so much to every play, offense, defense. They're playing 110%. Extremely well coached. Like it was a pleasure seeing those guys up close.
The funniest thing is like the only player on that team that went on to play college was their linebacker Kyle Cannon, who was first team All-State. He went to Southeastern, so like St. Charles never like they're like Notre Dame in a lot of ways where like they really don't produce that many college players. This is a really solid program with
well coached,
disciplined, great defense, great also great tacticians too. Like I think they're one of the best. Like Coach Stein is one of the best statisticians in high school football today. But moving on to our next section that we want to talk about is, of course, Division 1-5A with Airline, Benton, Captain Shreve, C.E. Bird, Evangel, Christian, Houghton, Huntington, and Parkway. So that's a pretty loaded district. I mean, extremely loaded district. So, Joel, I know you cover the sports up there in West Louisiana. Of those teams, who's the favorite you think will win that district title?
Well, I've been traveling around, and to be honest, they all think they're the favorite. You know, every time at Captain Shreve the other day, they're saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to win the district again. We're going 10-0." Airline, they won the district before that. They're like, "No, we're going 10-0." Ben Taylor over at Airline, he says they're going 10-0. But man, Captain Shreve, Trey Fuller, he believes they're going 10-0. I would say the favorite is, if I had to say it right now, who the favorite is, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but I got Evangel, man. I got Evangel running that district. Huge game. Week 4 is going to be Evangel at Airline. Then later in the season, Evangel, Captain Shreve. Some big games, but man, that Pop Houston he is so incredible. He's going to be a sophomore, the number one quarterback in the class of 27. Watched him in the spring game against North DeSoto after Evangel only practiced together for like a week. And Pop looked incredible. Then in the 7-on-7, he looked phenomenal. And last year, I saw him in the first couple of games when he was at Calvary, threw a couple touchdowns. He is something special, and he has so many receivers around him. Denny Duron, head coach of Evangel, founder of the school, says he's never had this many receivers that's going to play at one time. He's had some great receivers, but normally just one or two at a time. They have 8 guys that are going to play this year, including they just added T.O.'s son. He's going to be out there a little bit too.
Right.
Oh, wow.
That's
yeah.
right.
And I want to ask about Evangel because Evangel, in recent times, it's not the same Evangel that me and Jace grew up with. I know a very few years ago, they didn't win a single game. And now they're kind of back to bringing back the talent. But in the last couple of years, we're supposed to be those teams were supposed to be the ones that would bring the Evangel back. But they've been kind of disappointing. What makes this Evangel team different from these past teams, even though they bring back a lot of players from last year?
Well, it's kind of like how the NBA works. Like one player goes somewhere, then a lot of guys kind of come with him. A lot of guys came with Pop from like all schools. Like some guys came from Parkway, guys came from Airline, Bossier, and Evangel's going to be good. I've been telling a lot of people Evangel's going to be good. They're loaded on defense. Let me tell you about them. Day Drake, offense and defense. Day Drake is a ball player. Denny Duron was saying he does stuff on both sides of the ball that he's never seen before. And for someone like Denny Duron to say that is phenomenal. But man, that District 1-5A, it is going to be something else. You have 8 district games, and then you're adding Evangel and Huntington, which Evangel and Huntington. So imagine going from 4A to 5A, and then the non-district games that they have. Huntington opens with West Monroe, and then later in the season they play Calvary. Evangel's 2 non-district games. Week 1 they host Neville, and then they're bringing in Lafayette Christian week 9. So both schools playing lights out schedules. District 1-5A is going to be a lot of fun this year. A lot of fun. And Bird Yellow Jackets, a very senior-led class. Past couple of years, they've a lot of sophomores, a lot of juniors. All those kids have grown up, and they've all been running the Veer together for the past few years. And anytime Bird has a senior class, a senior offense that they've all been working together, they're always tough to stop. The last time they had that was a few years ago with Lake Lambert, and he ran the table and won the district. So Bird's going to be competing in there as well. They're losing Southwood. Southwood's dropping down to 4A. I think Huntington can compete too, because Huntington they've been training extremely hard this summer. They were put out of their school because the school got shut down over the summer because they found some stuff in the wall. So they've been training outside off campus. They moved their weight room, went out there, and those guys were working harder than any team I've seen this summer, I believe.
Well, you said it's going to be a fun district to watch, Joel, and it looks like it's going to be fun to watch if you're an offensive just fan. Like it reminds me of maybe the old Big 12 days where it was just like 60 to 55. Like when you got quarterbacks like Ben Taylor, Malachi Ziegler, Pop. I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, we talk about those offenses though, but is there a sleeper team in this district that, is not the first or second, maybe not even the third team name that comes to mind in this district, but can sneak up on a lot of people this year and can maybe make a little bit of a run?
Yeah, I think it'd be that Bird Yellow Jacket team. I don't think anyone's thinking about them. Everyone's thinking about Airline, Captain Shreve, Evangel, but it's that Bird team. I think they can sneak up and shock a lot of people. Like Benton, they're young. Houghton, young head coach. Huntington's good, but they played Bird last year. It was a out of district game, and Huntington won. I believe it was 44-43. Just a shootout. Yeah, like a big old Big 12 game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say Bird could shock some people this year.
Oh yeah, definitely. Bird's always been one of those teams where every few years you're gonna have that team that shocks a lot of people, and then they make that run to the dome. I know, in 2020, was the year when like really good. They ended up beating Curtis in the semifinals before they ended up losing against a really talented Catholic team. Just was better than they were, and I feel like it was any other year. I just felt like it would have been Bird's year, but that was just a really talented Catholic team with a freshman Daniel Beal and Sean Sanson. There's a lot of great players on that team, but Bird's always one of those teams where you just can't leave them off just because there's just one of those teams where they're going to make a run for it. Also, with that, when you have a beer offense, it's hard to stop.
Just ask John Curtis.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. Oh yeah. But my next question is about Captain Shreve. I know Captain Shreve, of course, they're the defending district champs. Their only loss of the regular season was to Calvary Baptist. Speaking of the double war, they just absolutely got pummeled, but then they rebounded like really well, and they ended up winning the district. And then unfortunately, they lost against Rummel in the second round. But was expected from Captain Shreve this season, despite losing some key players like Jamarlin Otis and Devin Harper transferred to Calvary, but then also you lose your head coach in Adam Kirby.
Right, yeah. Lost Adam Kirby. They're going to have Coach Jeremy this year. He's stepping in, and I tell you, Jamarse Plater. He's the running back now for Captain Shreve. The kid is a burner. Like he can go, and they still have a big offensive line, and they have a great defense. Trey Fuller back there at safety, and they have a Peyton Houston on their team. Except this Peyton Houston plays defense over Captain Shreve. He's also a big ball player. Captain Shreve. I was talking about Huntington a while ago, how they got put out of their school. Same thing happened with Captain Shreve. They had some renovations going on, had some delays, and so they spent their summer. D1 took them in. So I went up to D1 this summer and watched them, and they're still big. It seems like every year, like you're thinking, okay, Captain Shreve is going to lose a lot of this size, but they still have it. And they're actually the biggest school in Shreveport. For years it was Bird, but for the past 3 years it's been Captain Shreve. So Captain Shreve, they always field a lot of guys. They're very athletic. They're very big, and they're going to compete every year. I thought last year that Airline was going to beat Captain Shreve, and went out to the Bossier game last year, and it was Captain Shreve. Captain Shreve running the ball, playing defense. Captain Shreve's gonna be in every game.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue, Joel, because I was going to ask you about Airline because I mean they made a pretty deep run last year, I think quarterfinals last year, and then when you return Ben Taylor, you return those receivers like Kenny and Jarvis to throw the football to. And they're going to put up the points. But do you think the defense is good enough for them to make a run at a state championship this year?
We'll see. Last year, their defense was a little young. This year, they are more senior led, so they should be able to step up a little bit on defense. Man, and talk about those receivers. I think like the best receiver pair, and like at least up here. I don't know what you guys have down there as far as like a pair that could compete with them. Jarvis Davis Jr. Leading the state pretty much last year, and Kenny Darby only played in 4 games, but he had like 500 yards and 9 touchdowns. I asked him, how many touchdowns do you think you're going to have this year? And he like looked at me with a straight face and said 38. I'm like, come on, man, 38. What about Jarvis Davis? Is he not going to catch?
Right.
No, he's also going to have 38. Like, they call him D1 Kenny. He's going to be a junior this year, already committed to Mississippi State. And so, D1 Kenny, he's for real. And so is Jarvis Davis Jr. Like those guys can ball out there. And Ben Taylor going over 4,000 yards, looking to do that again. That Airline offense, man, they are so tough to stop. Head coach Justin Scoggins done a great job at Airline, going into his 3rd year. First year he won district. 2nd year makes a deep run into the playoffs. This year they're looking to go farther. They're looking to go back to the Dome, back to the state championship game for the first time since I think they said 1972 or something.
Wow,
over 50 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine if the 2 receivers have 38 touchdowns apiece, what Ben's numbers are going to be looking like, because maybe close to 80, 90 touchdown passes this year. If that's the case, they're both getting 38. That's a really good season for Airline.
He seemed about it when he said it. He said 38, like very serious.
All right.
Yeah,
we got to keep that number in mind, Grant.
Oh yeah, definitely, and that's only a few receiver cores that are just as good or better than Airline. I mean, District has got 4 of those guys. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
District
that's
and like they got like one guy's committed to LSU, one guy's committed to La Tech, and they have 2 juniors. And like Jabari Mack, of course, is one of the top receivers in the country. Then Greg Rolfred's gonna be a guy. He's gonna be in a lot of. He's gonna be hopping recruited rankings. I mean, that's really the only one. There's really not that much, and that's because really like in North, especially in Shreveport, really the only schools that actually have those deep receiving cores because they like to throw the ball around. But like Airlines up there, and I love Kenny, I love Jarvis, Ben Taylor. I've always been high on Ben Taylor, so is Jace. Coach Goggins, he's always been a big help whenever I need information about his team. I just recently
great guy.
great guy, definitely great. He's actually from Leesville. Yeah, he's a Leesville guy, Southern Louisiana guy. But I actually recently did an article about them, and he talked about the defense a lot, like how the defense, this year could be a lot more experienced. It could be more senior laden, and even though a lot of them weren't starters last year, they played a good bit last year. So I know he's really, really high on this team, and I think they're going to do something special this year. But it's just Division One, you don't know what's going to happen Division One non-select just because it's so deep. I mean, there's not. I mean, you got teams from all over the state. They're just all really, really good, and I think Airline is definitely in the top 5 when it comes to schools where it comes to going to the dome. But the next school I want to talk about is Benton. Benton has one of the top sophomore quarterbacks in the country in Malachi Ziegler. We've mentioned him a bunch, but they also have TCU committed their offensive tackle, Win Van Hoy. What are some realistic expectations for the Tigers this season?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough in that district. It's I would say it sounds bad. Like if they could go 4-4 in the district, that's a win. That would be a win for them this year because they have such a young team and they could go ahead and build on that. But they've got some tough competition going this year, man. It's going to be a quarterback battle every year. But Malachi, he might already have the biggest arm in the area. The kid can sling it. Like he almost flicks it, just like Mike Vick used to. Just doesn't even looks like he doesn't even put his whole arm into it. It's like his wrist, like 65-yard, just easy for him. But Benton, yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, some fun teams to watch, and Ben's definitely going to be a fun one to watch. But a team we already mentioned Bird. I know you talked about them being a sleeper team, but talking about Houghton too as well. I mean, they got a new head coach, Coach Sewell as well, and Coach Brotherton's done a good job over there in the past, and they've always been a scrappy type of team, and they'll win a playoff game, and they'll win. They'll definitely an on the radar team as well, but. What do you think about with the new leadership this year? And then what do you think about how they can fall in this tough district?
And also a new turf. Also, they got the new field out at Houghton, and it's one of the harder places to play in the area. They call it Between the Pines at Houghton. It's the student section. They're rowdy. The crew is their name. Like they're very vocal the entire game. The opposing team, it's hard for them to hear anything coming from the sidelines when the crew's yelling at you and you're in between the pines. And now it's going to be on that field, which it's going to be different to see this year because Houghton normally they had a real thick grass. It was more of a slower game, but now the game's going to be sped up a lot more. So not sure how that's going to help Houghton because it seems like in the past, like that grass was able to like slow other teams down a little bit, but Houghton was kind of used to it. And Houghton and Benton, they've always had this battle, I guess for the past 5 years, Battle of the Wooden Hippo. It was Coach Brotherton and Coach Moore over at Benton, and then Coach Brotherton, who was at Houghton. They had that Battle of the Wooden Hippo. So I haven't asked if that's going to continue this year. I hope it does because the Battle of the Wooden Hippo is one of the fastest growing rivalries here in North Louisiana, and look to see that thing continue. Love being out of Houghton. Those boys always play hard. Something different about there. It's just like one of those traditional Louisiana Friday nights. Like everyone in that small town is at Houghton. They got the grills going. You can smell the burgers cooking. The band is always legit, man. They have a electric guitar and a bass player for their band. A lot of other bands they don't have that. Like we have some bands that have DJs, like Captain Shreve's band. They have a DJ. It's pretty cool. They call it the Swamp. But up at Halton, they have that electric guitar, that bass really stands out. It gives Halton kind of like a different tradition other schools don't have.
Yeah, get a little spin on it, a little flavor. I mean, I like that. I like that. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting how that with the turf and everything, how that matches up because these other teams in that district, I mean, they know what it takes to play basketball on grass, and so see how Halton can kind of get used to and adjust to that in this district where it's a lot of times it's going to be basketball on grass.
Yeah, and Han was actually one of the first articles I wrote about in when I started working for Crescent City Sports because we like to do previews on all the teams across the state, not just New Orleans, but also like Monroe, Shreveport, Lafayette, you name it. And they're one of the first articles I did. And, the thing about Coach Sewell is that a lot of people don't know this if you're not from the Shreveport area, but he grew up a Houghton fan because like his dad was like a big time Houghton guy. He played for Houghton when he was at college at La Tech. He used to drive down from Ruston back to Houghton to help coach the football team as a volunteer. He proposed to his wife on the 50-yard line at the stadium, and then now he's the head coach over there at Houghton. And he's not much older than me and Jace. Jace is 26.
No, he's a young guy.
He's 27. So
my age.
So me and Jace have some catching up to do in our lives. And we need to take a big role like that.
Yeah, where he's at.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But the next school I want to talk about is, of course, is Huntington. I know Huntington, they lost their coach, Jeremy Wilburn. He's at Captain Shreve. That's a pretty big loss, and he's a great coach, a great offensive mastermind as well. But the good thing about Huntington, and yes, they did lose Caleb Tucker, but they still have 30 seniors on the roster. How do you see Huntington channeling their experience as they return to District 1-5A this season? And then also, what is your overall outlook on their season? And how do you think they'll navigate the challenges of competing in a very, very tough district? I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, losing offensive coordinator Jeremy Wilburn, that will hurt a little bit, man. But that coach Stephen Dennis, he has done an incredible job at Huntington the past several years, just really turning that program around. It used to be the school that you would want to schedule your homecoming game against, but this Huntington team, they've been growing and growing, and they might be the biggest team in the district. That they have the 30 seniors. They have 140 kids overall, and yeah, they have a huge team. Defensive end for Huntington, man, Nehemiah Barrett. He is going to be a senior. When he was a sophomore, he had 8 sacks. As a junior, he had 15 sacks. So like sky's the limit for him now. I think his goal is 25. Like, is that possible? Like he's scary. And so he's going to be up in 5A competing against all those quarterbacks, chasing around those guys all game long. And so the Huntington defense, they're going to be on them. Huntington offense, man, they're very fast too. They picked up a kid that transferred from Bird. Man, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he is Malachi Johnson. He's going to be there and go along with Washington. They have some very, very athletic guys. They trained very hard this summer. They trained at this Coach Prude's gym. It's like this outdoor gym. It's covered, man, but it's hot. It's so hot in there. And they were up there for 3.5, 4 hours every day. So I think they were definitely working the hardest of any team that I saw this summer. And it always translates into the regular season. Huntington, they will compete. Huntington, they will win against the team every year that a lot of people think they're not going to win against. Last year, it was Bird. A couple of years ago, they beat Evangel. A few years before that, they went to Parkway and played Parkway on their homecoming, beat them. Went to Benton, beat them. This is while they were in 4A, beating those 5A teams. So Coach Stephen Dennis and the Huntington staff had done a tremendous job just working with these players just year round, just conditioning in the off-season program and the summer program, and then just holding everyone accountable. I think he says good is great, but better is always possible, or something like that. And I think Huntington will compete. It's going to be tough for them, against like Airline, Captain Shreve, Evangel. Like those are really like the top 3 in that district. But Huntington's going to be right there nipping at their heels and very competitive against the other teams. That Huntington Parkway game is going to be great. That Huntington Bird game is going to be great. So here come the Raiders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Coach Dennis does a great job with those guys. I mean, he really does, and he seems like he really cares about the kids, and he really does really a lot to get these guys really motivated to play. And he's done a really good job of over there. You can tell he really cares over there at Huntington. And then finally, we're going to talk about Parkway as well. We'll go to the other Coach Brotherton, right? So Coach Cooley Brotherton. Now about them, we talk so much about offense, right? But really, Parkway. It looks like they're going to be relying a lot on their defense too. I mean, they got some Division I guys on their defense with Devon Oliver and Louisiana Tech commit Kamario Mayo as well. So is it going to be one of those things where Parkway is going to have to rely more on their defense, or do you think they have enough? I mean, they have offense as well to compete with some of those higher scoring teams.
They do have one of the best offensive weapons, maybe in the state. He's going to be a junior this year, Antonio Gladney. He is one of the best players I saw last year. As a sophomore, he's just running away from guys. And then he shot out this summer at the 7-on-7, the Northwest Louisiana 7-on-7 tournament. He maybe had 20 touchdowns on the day. So like every time you looked over, Gladney was scoring another touchdown. But yeah, he's going to be big for that offense. And that defense that you were talking about, you're going to need a lot of receivers, a lot of weapons to play against Parkway, because they're going to shut down that run. You're not going to run up the middle, and you're not going to throw it to Mayo's side. So you're going to need to find other weapons, because they're going to take your number one receiver away, and you're not going to be able to run the ball. So it's going to be tough to score on a Parkway over in Sobo. They call it South Bossier.
Oh, definitely. And
Coach Coy brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can go on. It's a different topic, but
I was just saying, Coach Coy Brotherton has done a great job at Parkway, and Coach Matthew Sewell, who's at Halton now, he was with Coy Brotherton at Parkway for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. Anytime those Brotherton brothers, faced off against each other. I mean, how unique was that? To have your brother, right? Going up against each other on Friday nights. I mean, I thought that was one of the more unique storylines year in and year out. I'm sure discussing, in family reunions and family gatherings about those matchups and had them go against each other.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember when I was with Lee last summer with Louisiana Football Magazine, and we actually had both of them on because it was just kind of such a unique thing that you have two brothers coaching against each other at two different high schools in the same exact area every year.
They said it makes the turkey taste better on Thanksgiving. You get that win, you sit at the table with your brother, the turkey tastes so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also remember, like, back in the 60s, the names are escaping my mind because it was in the 60s, but the head coach of Jesuit and the head coach of Holy Cross were like brother-in-laws. And so, like, they would talk to each other, all year up until the week of the game. And then even like the wives wouldn't talk to each other. It was bad. So, exact. So, like, that's why I love the storylines where, like, you have brothers or brother-in-laws, like, coaches against each other. It's just fun, especially for journalists. We just love the stories. But there's one thing I actually forgot to ask, and it's between Seabird and Captain Shreve. They both will be playing at Tiger Stadium at the end of the year. Unfortunately, it's on a Thursday where there's a lot of great games going across South Louisiana. So I would love to go to that game. But what's the excitement like for both those programs going to play at Tiger Stadium? And then also, how did this all become a thing to go travel all the way down from Shreveport to play at Tiger Stadium?
Well, it all started with the night before April Fool's Day. I thought it would be funny to put out there that those schools would be playing each other at Tiger Stadium. They're really not. They're playing at Lee Hedges Stadium in Shreveport. And so, man, it spread around and it spread across the state. I didn't know it made it down there. Yeah, so people ask me all the time, like, hey, how did that happen? How are they getting to play at Tiger Stadium? I'm like, oh man, I never really circled back and said April Fools. I just thought it was funny. But that game is such a rivalry. Like the schools like hanging banners, overpasses. They're like we run this city. No, we run the city. The Shreve Bird game. It's hectic for the coaches. It's hectic for the administrators. It's always on Thursday. And this year it's week 10, and it's on Bird senior night. And Shreve, they're looking to spoil the senior night for Bird. Bird's looking to go out with a win on their senior night against their biggest rival. These schools, they're like 5 miles apart, if that. It's like they all know each other. Of course, like everyone knows each other now because of like Instagram and everything. Yeah. But like all these kids, they went to elementary school together, they went to middle school together, and now they play against each other, and it's a lot of fun. It's a very fun game to be at. Normally it's like week 3, week 4, but this year they really hooked us up by putting that at week 10. It's going to be in Shreveport though, at Lee Hedges Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the date. Sometimes you gotta check the date.
Yeah. I think that was one of those. I forgot when I saw it. I think it may have been April Fool's. It was like it might have been April Fool's, but it might have been the day after. I remember seeing that. Oh, that's dope.
Both schools like, also.
I wish that was
they played
at
Independence last year because of there was some asbestos. Lee Hedges. So they both had to play Independence Stadium this year. They're both thrilled to be back at Lee Hedges Stadium. More of an intimate setting post like the.
Yeah.
Screw it. Make it happen to Tiger Stadium.
I mean, I would love it. I would love it to be in Tiger Stadium. I mean, awesome. That way we get a chance to see the 318 go to the 225. So, I mean, let's make it happen. I mean, this can't just start off as an April Fool's joke. We got to make that into a real thing. So, we definitely got to do that.
Our next district I want to the next and final district we want to talk about is, of course, Division 1 4A. And there's like a pretty good teams in there with DeSoto and Loyola, and then also Northwest Shreveport's in the district as well. But I want to first start off with North DeSoto. I mean, is this their district to lose?
I'd say so. Yeah, that North DeSoto game that's week 4. They're already calling it the district championship. You know, the winner of that game they will win the district, and it is North DeSoto's district to lose. The past couple of years, you know, they Luke Delafield, he's a freshman, he's a sophomore. Well, now he's a junior, and Cole Corey is receiver. You know, he was a sophomore, he's a junior, now he's a senior, and their offense is something else. It's high tempo, and guys recording the game is tough because like they move down the field 20 yards. You got to sprint down 20 yards. Well, they just snap the ball again.
Yeah.
So they're very fast. They snap the ball with a lot of time on that play clock, and I'm sure that they run more plays than other teams do. Their defense very aggressive. A couple of years ago, their saying was they wanted to raft to state, and they feel like they took a raft down to state when they went and played Lutcher. Then last year, their saying was havoc. They were bringing havoc all year, and they made it to the semifinals against Opelousas. This year, their thing is kick the door down. They feel like they're right there, but now they're there. They're ready to kick the door down, and that's something that Dennis Dunn has done 8 times in his career, winning 8 state title games, and he loves this team. They love him, and the community also of Stonewall, Louisiana. They had a 1-hour fundraiser the other day. They said the North DeSoto players would be calling people looking to raise money for 1 hour. In that 1 hour, they raised $33,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Like Stonewall, they love their North DeSoto Griffins. Yeah. I mean, same with up in Blanchard with Northwood. Big community. That's a great game every year now. That's turned into like another great tradition, another incredible rivalry game, that North DeSoto Northwood game. But yeah, overall, it would be North DeSoto's district to lose. It all comes down to that week 4.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. I mean, about Norths, right? And a couple years ago, I mean, like you said, Dennis Dunn. I mean, he's one of the best coaches out there in the state of Louisiana, and what he's accomplished. And you mentioned when Luke was a freshman and they played Lutcher in the Superdome, they pretty much came out of nowhere. I mean, I don't think a lot of people were really expecting, especially a 9th grader, to lead them to a state championship appearance. Now, like you said, moving forward a couple years later, you have Luke, you have Cole Corey, and this is a division. You know, you have, I mean, when you look at the playoffs, you have Opelousas, You have Cecilia, you have Letcher, you got teams like that. Is there more? Do you think there's more pressure on this team because of that to kick the door down and to go compete for a state championship?
I think there's more motivation for them since they got so close the past couple of years, and they really feel like they had that game against Letcher. They were going to score. They were going down to score at the end of the second quarter to go up double digits, and then there was a big fumble. And yeah, man, Delafield came out playing lights out that game. The second play of the game, threw like a 50-yard bomb for a touchdown. This freshman out there doing these big things, and he's a junior now. Coach Dunn said when he was a freshman, he reminded him of a baby giraffe because he kind of like his body didn't quite fit yet. His hands are kind of too big, his feet are too big, but he's really grown into his body, and he's an incredibly smart football player, and he's talented. He's got a good arm, and he has other weapons around him besides just Cole Corey. They have Miller Warren. They have a couple of other receivers as well that they have some good playmakers. And they're Kenny Thomas, their running back. He recently ran a 4.42 laser time 40 at the LSU camp. He scored a lot of touchdowns last year. Big part of that tempo offense. So North DeSoto, there's something else. But then again, man, I saw Opelousas last year. Man, that four is a grown man.
A man. He's got a mortgage. He's got a family. All that, you know. But he's a grown man running the ball, and that's what really won the state championship last year was their O-line board. I think they just kind of bullied Cecilia, and that allowed them to get that state championship last year. But that's going to be fun. Those two conflicting styles, and good chance we can see that matchup. Maybe not in the semis. We might see that in the Superdome when it's all done.
That'd be real cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's also a lot of great teams in Division to non-select, and I think a lot of people just because like myself included, we're just like, oh yeah, North Dakota is going to win, but we also did acknowledge Opelousas, and we did also, and then Letcher coming back with a great team.
Yep.
A lot of great players returning from last year. Assumption's still going to be good. I mean, there's a lot of great teams in Division Two. So Cecilia has a lot of great, like their program is starting to become a monster down in the Lafayette area. I mean, I was actually looking at like some of the players they have coming back this year. It's just they have a Frank Jr. There's a lot of great young players.
The quarterback. Yeah, they're gonna be really talented.
Yeah, and his name's kind of escaping, but his name is Braylon. I forgot his last name, but he's a really good player too. I saw him on the Lafayette 7 something. He's a great player too. But there's a lot of great teams, and I can't wait to see North DeSoto this year. And I think I feel like they're gonna knock down that door. It's just only a matter of time because I feel like Coach Dunn is building something great down there. I mean, the man won most of Evangel state championships back in the 90s and early 2000s. He's a quarterback whisperer. He knows how to build a program. But also I want to mention this, ask this question too. Are there any teams that, outside of, 3 teams I mentioned, that maybe people are sleeping on and they have a lot more talent than a lot of people may think?
Man, it's top heavy. It's real top heavy with just those two. There's North DeSoto and Northwood. It's okay. I got a sleeper one for you. Minden, incredible offensive line.
Yeah.
Oh, they do. They do have a great line.
Mm-hmm.
They can run the ball. If you can run the ball and play a little defense, you can win.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. And good. My next question is actually about Loyola, and they'll have a new coach in John Sella, and they will actually bump up to 4A after being 3A for quite some time. But despite Coach Sella being an in-house hire, what has the transition been like so far, and what should we expect from the Flyers as they move to a new district?
Yeah, he's came from in-house hire, like you said. He's been there 8 years. He's a former lacrosse head coach, so he has done head coaching before, and he's been doing like offense, like receivers coaching for the past several years. He says this year he doesn't get to be as much about like a fun assistant kind of guy. He has transitioned into more of a disciplinary role, but the players are really taken to him. They have a sophomore quarterback. He's going to be special, Bryce Restovich. He's a lot of people really liking this kid, and like the players, they're really buying into Coach Sella. They're working hard. Went out there the other day, and so I think Loyola will be able to surprise and compete with the people. And they're actually in 2A last year. They moved up to the
oh yeah, that's right.
4A. And Loyola, they have something I've never seen another school have. Their student section, they have a gong. And man, it is glorious. When they score, like, you know it. Like, they hit that gong. I think the refs only let them hit it a certain amount of times, because it's pretty loud. And like, you've never seen a gong anywhere, like no one's ever had one of those things. It really sets them apart, and just like this little fun tradition that Loyola has.
Yeah, the Flyers, they got the Snoopy on the on the midfield, and yeah, they're definitely different. And yeah, they were in 2A. Call a lot of Pistol games in Baton Rouge, and that was a team that they played in the playoffs, so got to see them a whole lot. And you're right about Menden too, by the way. We have a Gridiron Football Bowl game, and Jonathan Bradford's one of the linemen for them, and he's a beast, and he's going to be playing in our bowl game this year. So yeah, Menden's got some linemen this year to keep out for. And you mentioned Northwood, right? That's just kind of like how we're going to wrap things up here for them and for the Falcons. It seemed like they had a lot of youth last year, right? So for them, who are some guys we should be expecting for Northwood this year to kind of take that leap? And what kind of team you think we should be seeing from them?
Extremely physical team. Head coach Austin Brown, he's a defensive-minded coach, and he has a physical defense. He also has a fast defense, because the defensive secondary, they won the 1x400 relays, the 2 starting corners and the 2 starting safeties. So it's going to be tough to outrun them. It's also going to be tough to out physical them, because they're very big up front. They're linebackers. They're defensive line. Offense, they have some speedy guys. They have a little scat back. I think his name's Kyron Williams. Kyron something.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Kyron, seeing this. But Northwood, they're going to be able to put up some points against some people fast, and they'll be able to stop some people too. Last year, that North DeSoto game, man, it was something crazy at halftime. It was something like 38-36. It was just back and forth. It was like anyone who paid their $8-10 that, they definitely got their money's worth out of that. Northwood, another tough place to play up there in Blanchard. The whole town just shows out for it. The food's in the air. The band's always good. The team, physical. Coach Austin Brown, he coaches the team hard. He coaches the team hard, kind of like Stacy Blue does over at CE Bird. But
Right.
it really shows on Friday nights from what Northwood brings out. And they opened the season this year against Benton. Benton's coming in week 1, and Benton has beaten Northwood like the last 4 or 5 years in a row. But Coach Brown says he's just going to keep scheduling Benton until they beat them. He said, I don't care how long it takes. We're just going to play them every year. And
hey, I can't disagree with that logic. We keep on playing until they beat us. So, yeah, Northwood's been a team. They've had some really good players in the past, and really they're going to be a team to watch out for. I know Coach Brown does a really good job over there. So, yeah, I mean, really 5A, 4A. I mean, it's going to be – there's really a lot of really good teams. And my last question to you, Joel, is what do you think just about the depth, right? I mean, always you look at Shreveport, you think of Evangel, you think of Calvary. I mean, those are like the 2 teams you really think of. But just the depth and just the quality of really good teams in the area, how much have you really seen that grow?
Oh, big time. Like with Airline this past couple of years, with North DeSoto this past couple of years, Halton, man, a few years back, they were really putting out some really good teams like that. Maybe like 2019 Halton team. They had Stovall.
Payne Stovall. Yep.
Yeah, Peyton Stovall. That team that he was on, they lost in the playoffs, but it was in heavy rain. Man, if that game would not have been in the rain, I don't know how far they could have gone, because like their offense, they were something else. And it's good to see, like what's that they say, like a rising tide lifts all boats. And it's good to see like when all the offenses are clicking. Like everyone, they know about Evangel and Calvary, and they normally have good offenses and good teams. But to see these other teams able to compete with them, and Huntington these past few years have been really good. A couple of years ago with Cameron Evans, quarterback, threw like 6 touchdowns in one game, accounted for 8 touchdowns in a game. They put up some big numbers, had the biggest year of scoring for them. Airline had their biggest scoring year last year. Like this is in school history. North DeSoto last year. So you have these teams outside of Evangel and Calvary coming along and really just trying to put 318 more on the map, man. Like this Northwest Louisiana, because like Northeast Louisiana, they get a lot of praise and and they deserve it. West Monroe and Neville and Ruston and all of them. But there was this recent poll, like they had like this top 25 in the state. They didn't have anyone over in our area. I'm like, what? Are you kidding? Like, Calvary could beat a bunch of these teams.
Oh yeah, I mean Calvary should have been really number one. The fact that they weren't on a lot of these lists was, I mean, that was totally shocking to me.
Yeah, the thing about this national, I just don't understand how they just can't ask any of these journalists in the state of Louisiana, hey, who are the top teams in the state this year? Because what bothers me is they're like, oh, let's just put John Curtis number one. But even though like Catholics returned in a bunch of players from the year before, and they beat Curtis in the playoffs last year, and so leaving off Calvary at the top 25, leaving off U High out of the top 25.
Another big snub.
It's like U has a bunch of like incident, and the thing is U High and Calvary both have like blue chip recruits. So like you would think like national recruits stuff like that were like factored in there, but they really did. They put in East Ascension and no offense to EA and of course Coach Bethune and all them. Like I think they're gonna be pretty.
I think they'll be solid this year.
But if you ask them, hey, do you think you should be on the top 25? And I don't think you would agree with it because like there's a lot of great teams in Louisiana that probably wouldn't make that list. You know what I'm saying? So it just bothers me that like national recruiting sites just like you have all these resources, use them. Like, instead of like, let's just throw this team on there because they were good 20 years ago.
Curtis had a bunch of wins.
JT Curtis won a lot.
I mean, Curtis deserves to be on the list. I'm not saying they should be like number one. Like, I mean, they're not. Yeah. Right. They're like, they're definitely a top 10, maybe even top 5, but they're not number one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I agree. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, I really like, Calvary, I mean, it's my top 5. I mean, I like And the Car. I mean, I really like Ruston. I mean, those are really the 3 teams to me that just really stand out to me the most heading into the season. But doesn't mean it can change. That's why you play these games on the field. You don't play them on paper. So it's going to be fun to follow the season. And really, I'm really excited about the season. I mean, I can't wait for it to get started. And I believe we have scrimmages next week. So we're going to get really going into it. And we have scrimmages, jamborees, and we're kicking the season off. So I mean, we're excited. Football's coming, and it's gonna be really fun to follow.
Hey, where y'all going week 1?
I haven't really thought about it yet. I mean, I'm still kind of looking right now. But there's just a lot of really good games because, I mean, just looking around. I mean, because that's the non-district matchups, and you get all kinds of crazy matchups from, North Louisiana going down South Louisiana, and South Louisiana going North Louisiana. So it's going to be fun. I mean, just looking at week 1, looking at the slate. But, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to really follow what happens week 1 because, there's going to be a lot of big-time games that are non-district that, could be at the end. We look at the PowerPoints. I mean, they're going to make a difference. So it's going to be fun to follow because we usually have a lot of these matchups we don't usually see, and then when you come into this year, there's just a lot. I mean, you got the district shake up. You got teams moving up in class now. You got teams moving down in class this year. So it's going to be some new blood. There's going to be familiar faces, but it's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, for me too. Like I'm kind of leaning towards Catholic at Destrehan, but there's a lot of great matches.
Yeah,
I mean, shoot, like in your area alone, you have Oak Grove at Calvary. Like, I mean, that's 2 of the favorites that me and Jace both had as our favorites to repeat, and as the most likely to repeat. So, I mean, that's just a big time matchup right there in your area. I mean, week 1, I think the first few weeks of the season would determine like who are the dogs of the state, and of course, as the season goes on, you would find out even more. But I think, with Shreveport this year and how strong it is, I feel like that this is the year where you might see multiple teams from Shreveport instead of just one make it to the Dome. I think, obviously Calvary, I feel like it's going to make it to the Dome, but I think Airline, of all the teams in that district, probably has the best chance because they've already been farther down the road. And I think they're just knocking on the door. And I think it's going to be North DeSoto. I think it's going to be North DeSoto and Calvary for sure. And I think Airline has a great chance as well.
Yeah, 3 or 4 teams, and like Joel was saying earlier, I mean, Evangel with the weapons they added, I mean, I can see Evangel, making a sneaky run too. So, I mean, in your opinion, Joel, I have about 4 teams that I feel like in that area can make a run. Where you at right now as far as what you think the best case scenario is for a state championship teams in the Dome from 3-1-8?
Calvary, North DeSoto, Calvary and North DeSoto. If I had to bet on it, I would definitely say those schools. Man, that week 1, that Calvary Oak Grove, I wish I could go to that. Man, I'm gonna be at the Evangel Neville game.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's gonna be another one. That's
Man,
another one.
Neville looks good. They came over and played Bird. Of course, they played Evangel the past couple of years, but Neville played Bird at the spring game. Man, Neville's got some ballers, and so does Evangel. It is going to be something else. I wish they played on like a Thursday night, not Friday, so I could watch both of those games. But yeah, we got some great games up here. Week 3, September 20th, we got West Monroe at North DeSoto.
Okay.
Yeah, we got some fireworks up here this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Pop Evangel against that Neville defense, and that Neville defense got some dudes on that side of the football, so that's going to be the price of admission as well. Just seeing that matchup.
Yeah, that safety from Neville, he's the real deal. I know he's like one of the top guys in the country.
Yeah, Juju Burns. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
on the defensive line too. So.
Oh yeah, Brody Wiley. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. I'll wrap up tonight's whatever you want to call it show. I'm your host, Grant Sashray. This, of course, is my coach, Jace Lazern, as always. And thanks for Joel Rodgers for hopping on and sharing us some information about all the things happening in Northwest Louisiana. Make sure to like and subscribe this video and subscribe to Ruger Sports Media's YouTube channel. And then also make sure to follow us on social media wherever you may get that. Anyway, see you guys later.
Appreciate it, guys.
No problem.